Go Jackets.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. Not as happy as I'd like to be, not the result that we wanted. All the coach speak, whatever. Talk some mad trash, and now I'm having to eat it a little bit, is what it is. But, I wanted to come on. Obviously, Georgia Tech loses 39-34 after being up big 28-13 at halftime. So what went wrong? What can we correct, and what are some takeaways, some good things we can take away from the game? Well, first I want to say I'm seeing some in my comment section, Facebook groups, and these are kind of the low-hanging fruit. Obviously, a lot of Tech fans upset, and I get it. I'm upset too. And honestly, I've changed my mind from what I said on the post-game show to now as it pertains to Haynes King. I think I was a little harsh on Haynes King. When mistakes are made, I don't necessarily know where the communication breakdown went. Maybe it was clearly communicated to wide receivers, and I'm really talking about when he just threw it right down the seam and no one was there. But a lot of Tech fans are going with, oh, this is the same team as last year, and really alluding to, oh, this is the same things we had, under Collins. And I don't know another way to say it, and I hate, I guess saying this about some Tech fans, but that's dumb. That's really dumb. If you think that team Friday night looked like a Jeff Collins team, Clemson last night, looked more like a Jeff Collins coach team than Georgia Tech did against Louisville on Friday. We didn't have any special team snafus, and I thought our offense did look much better, or it has the potential to be a whole lot better than it was last year. I don't remember the last time we scored 34 points, and when things were clicking with Haynes King, and now we have an answer to what kind of offense Georgia Tech's going to run. It's going to be a spread RPO option type offense that comes with tempo at times. And we're going to be more than likely a pass-first offense. And that might be more out of necessity than design, moving forward. But I do think Buster is a more pass-first oriented guy. We scored 28 unanswered points in the second quarter. It's a lot of points to score in a quarter. We didn't look good in the first quarter. And honestly, offensively, neither team looked good. And for the people that maybe were as down on Haynes as I was, let me go through the stats. I've got them pulled up here. Jack Plummer threw 18 of 31. A little more than 50%, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That one interception came from Clayton Powell-Lee. Haynes King threw 19 for 32, 313 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And we spread the ball around. This is something we haven't seen in a very long time at Georgia Tech. Really it was Nate McCullum going for over 100 yards if we were able to get the pass game going last year. Let's look at the wide receiver breakdown. Malik Rutherford leads 5 receptions, 85 yards. And then it's Chase Lane, 3 receptions for 69 yards. Obviously, he had the long 48-yard touchdown run. Then Jamal Haynes, which shout out to Jamal Haynes. This is a kid that played wide receiver last year and transitioned to playing running back, 4 receptions, 56 yards. And I could keep going down, but we've got, really even distribution of throwing the ball. And that's good for having a balanced, passing attack where, you can't really key on one receiver. And that's kind of what we thought coming into the season, right? I still think we have a good wide receiver room. But I'll say this: I don't know that Jack Plummer is a better quarterback than Haynes King. C-Dog said this in the post game, or it might have been a little after. When Jack Plummer was pressured, he was throwing the ball at kids' feet. They were able to make adjustments and look a lot better in the second half. And when Haynes King had a little bit of time, we scored 28 unanswered points. Now, credit to Louisville. They didn't give up. They didn't buy into this game was out of hand. And I do think Georgia Tech, that locker room, and it's not just what I think, King, the defensive back, in the post-game press conference said, we really, the feeling in the locker room, we really thought we had that game in the bag. And like I've said, I think that permeated from the coaching staff a little bit, and that shows some inexperience with, like, Winky, Key, Buster Faulkner, some of these newer coordinators and head coaches. And I think we're going to learn from that. This is one game. We can still have a really good season. Your takeaway should not be throw the baby out with the bathwater, that this is a wrap on this season. We can do a lot of good things this season. I guess let's get into the bad. Our offensive and defensive line struggled for most of that game. And I don't really know who struggled worse. Honestly, it was both pretty bad at times. We couldn't – the difference in that game was really we could not get diddly poo squat pressure on Jack Plummer. I think he might have been hurried 2 or 3 times in that game. Other than that, he had time to throw the football. They were able to push us around. They were more physical for most of that game, which was surprising to me. If we're going to have any kind of success this season, we're going to have to improve and start to improve quickly on the line of scrimmage. And that's why you can't put this on Haynes King. Haynes King wasn't working with a whole lot. He had a ton of pressure in his face. I mean, a second and a half, 2 seconds, he had pressure and he had to make a decision. And there weren't guys just running wide open downfield. So I made the statement maybe the moment got too big for him. He was a little indecisive with when to take off and run and when to throw. But then I thought, well, if it goes the other way and he kind of feathers out and doesn't decide to run really quickly, and then our wide receiver, they bite on King and the wide receiver gets open, you're going to have an explosive play, Just so happened Louisville's defense covered really, really well. That's one thing I can say about Louisville. I said they have a lot of speed, and their defensive backfield is very, very good. Now, we'll see. If you're a Louisville fan, don't do what Georgia Tech did and think, oh, we got this season in the bag now. Like Tech thought we had that game in the bag. Louisville's not going to get challenged probably till NC State in week 4 or 5 here, and then they've got Notre Dame, Pitt, a bye, and Duke. So we'll see just how good Louisville is. Now, as far as coming out in the second half and conservative play calling, I thought about that too. And I do think, we've got to improve as coaches. But you got to be able to come out when you have a big lead and bang the football and take time off the clock. Because if you can't do that and you're having to throw and it's incomplete and you're stopping the clock, I mean, this is not ideal. And then it turns out what happened is we showed we couldn't run the football in the second half. So now Louisville knows we're going to throw. Right? And they just continue to bring pressure, and they won the man-on-man matchups. We just couldn't get anyone open. It's tough. That feeling going into half and then just not being able to execute. in the second half for Georgia Tech. Now, the other big thing is, what are these injuries? I think Miles Sims, don't know how serious the injury is. The killer on defense, LaMiles Brooks, came out, I think at the end of the first or early in the second quarter. Sylvain Yonjuin, I feel like he has an ACL injury. He could be out for the season. And, that was surprising because, in the press conferences, Brent Key seemed pretty optimistic about the defensive line, saying, we got 11 guys that can go at any time. Well, it didn't show in that game. It didn't show in that game. Travion Cooley looked good, though. Travion Cooley's probably running back one now. Jamal Haynes looked pretty good. We might have a pretty good 1-2 duo with them, and we'll see how Dante Smith comes along. I don't really want to harp on that too much. I think he's a guy that when we're not able to get – basically when we're getting pushed back, Dante's not the back that's going to bang it up the middle and be able to break a tackle in the way Travion Cooley is. But, yeah, Malik Rutherford looked good. Just looking at the receiving stats, Chase Lane looked really good. Eric Singleton Jr., guy that's a true freshman. So, look, we might not get to like a 7 win mark this season, or we might squeak by just getting into a bowl, or we might win 5 games, depending on how it goes. But we've got the talent on this team to do some really good things and to win a lot of football games. Now, I still think we'll win a bowl this year. I still think we can win 7 games. And people might think I'm crazy. I'm not. I think we can go and beat Ole Miss in Oxford. We'll see how we'll get a little bit of a sense when we watch South Carolina State. And if we're struggling or it's late into the fourth before we really pull away or something, then there's cause for concern. If we're struggling on offense or defense during that game, then I think we have cause for concern. But this could be, I'm not ever going to say a loss is a good thing, but when your mistakes get exposed or your weaknesses, deficiencies, both in coaching and with skill and play on the field, and it results in a loss, that can really focus a team. And you say, hey, man, we made some very correctable mistakes. I mean, how you approach a game mentally coming out of half, it can be immediately corrected. So remember this feeling, right? If you're a Tech player, you don't ever want to feel this way again. You don't ever want to have a game, quote unquote, in hand and let the other team come out and embarrass you in a half. But I think Buster Faulkner, like I said, I don't even know that we came out super conservative. I think we did what we needed to do. If we could have come out and ran the ball and took a bunch of time off the clock, we would have been able to win the game, obviously. If we could have got one more stop on defense. Now, that's the other concern. Did we take a little bit of a step back on defense? Looks like it. It looks like it up to game 1. But we'll see. Maybe we don't match up well with Louisville. Maybe we match up better with other teams that are pretty good on our schedule. But, yeah, tell me what you guys think. I feel a whole lot different about this game and about this team sitting here early, like 5 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. But I still think there's a lot to be excited about this team, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'll see you guys later.